Our fairy tale today is called The Boy Who Lived with Bears. This is a story told among the Lenape people. The Lenape are a group of Native American nations, some of whose traditional lands are in a place the people who live here now call the state of New York. Once a boy lived near a great lake on that land. The boy's parents were no longer alive, leaving him alone. So his uncle agreed to take him in. The boy's uncle was an excellent hunter who could track any animal. But he had never wanted children, and he was angry that he'd ended up taking care of one. The boy only slowed him down when the two were hunting, he thought. So he took out his frustration on the boy. He only had angry words to say, and he only gave the boy the worst parts of the deer and the bear that he hunted. And he only gave the boy torn clothes. He even gave him moccasins without soles, so the boy had to walk with bare feet. The boy loved his uncle and tried very hard not to upset him, but no matter how silent he was or how hard he tried not to be in the way, the uncle just grew angrier and angrier when he remembered that he was stuck with the boy for good. If only there was some way to get myself unstuck, he'd say to himself, and soon the uncle had made an awful plan. One day, the uncle took the boy hunting. He led the boy to the mountains where there was a deep cave in the earth. "I need your help," he said to the boy. The uncle had never told the boy that he needed his help before, so the boy was excited. Finally, he could prove to his uncle that he wasn't a burden or something that made life harder. "Whatever you need, Uncle, I'll do it," he said. The uncle pointed to the cave. "Go all the way to the back of the cave and make as much noise as you can," he said. "Don't stop until you've driven all the animals out of the cave. Then I can shoot them with arrows." The boy eagerly ran into the cave. He stomped and yelled, making a huge ruckus. Then, smiling, he started to walk back towards the entrance to ask his uncle if he had done a good job. The entrance was so far away that it looked like a single dot of sunlight. But suddenly, the light disappeared, like someone had taken a paintbrush and painted it black. His uncle had rolled a gigantic stone over the cave entrance. The boy was trapped underground in the dark. The boy didn't know what to think. The dark cave smelled wet and old, like green moss climbing a river rock. He sat in the dark alone for a long time, and he thought about his uncle again and again until it felt like he had used up all of his thoughts, and he sat in the dark all alone. After what felt like forever, he heard a rumbling sound, and again the rocks of the cave lit up with sunlight. His uncle had changed his mind. Happy, the boy ran to the mouth of the cave, but his uncle wasn't there. Instead, he found a gigantic black bear, her paw still resting on the stone. At first, the boy was afraid, but some instinct or feeling told him the bear was kind. She pointed her paw at the boy, and he knew she wanted him to follow her. The bear took the boy back to a gigantic hollow ash tree, which she had turned into her den or home. Do you know any other animals that live in a den? She adopted the boy into her family and he became a brother to her two bear children, a boy and a girl. His bear family taught him to find pecans, to hunt fruit, to fish for salmon in the river. And at first, it was strange to live with the bears, but soon he grew to love the bear life. No one here wanted him to be silent or to disappear. He rolled on the grass with the other bears. He fished with his hands in the cold rivers, and he slept peacefully at night, covered in his family's fur and warm bear breath. His new family taught him the bear language too, and slowly he came to understand them. His bear mother told him that all the animals had seen the wicked thing the boy's uncle had done. They had held a conference to decide who should adopt the boy. Only the black bear had been strong enough to roll away the stone, so the animals had decided that she would be strong enough to care for him too. The boy was very happy that they had found one another. He hadn't had such a kind family in a long time. But one day, everything changed. The boy returned from gathering pecans to find a red mark painted on the ash tree where he and the bears lived. It was his uncle's mark. He knew the mark he had used to remind himself where his prey lived. Crying, the boy tried to wipe the red mark away, but he knew his uncle would soon come and he would bring his bow and arrow with him. He told his bear mother what had happened. "Your uncle won't hurt another human," she said. "When he comes, put your arms out of the tree first. If you do, then he'll know a human lives here and he won't hurt any of us." She sounded calm, but the boy was still nervous. "My uncle would hurt another human, though," he said. "He hurt me after all." The mother bear gave the boy a sad smile. "Please trust me," she said. "Show him your arm and let him know you're human. It'll help all of us stay alive." But the boy was still too scared. Part of him was afraid of his uncle, but another part of him was sad. The only human he really knew was his uncle, and he didn't want to be like his uncle at all. He wished his arm was a bear arm instead, so that he could be more like his real family. So when he heard his uncle coming, the boy kept his arm inside the den, out of sight. "Maybe my uncle will go away," he said to himself. But just then an arrow flew into the den. For a moment he was terrified that it might have hurt his bear mother, but she was safe. His heart filled with love for her, and so his fear of his uncle evaporated or dried up like a puddle of rain on a sunny day. He put his arm out of the den and waved it as hard as he could. Soon his uncle came running. The boy was still afraid of his uncle and worried that his uncle might say something angry again. But instead, his uncle fell to his knees and hugged his nephew tight. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry I shut you in the cave. I went back to get you the next day, but the cave was empty. And now I find that you're alive. Please forgive me, please." The boy didn't know what to think, but soon his bear mother came over too. She put her paw on his wrist. "I think it's time for you to go back and live with the humans again," she said. "Thank you for putting your arm out of the den. It saved all of us. Never be ashamed of being a human. You can be a human and still be my son." So the bear family all said goodbye. and the boy went to live with his uncle again. His uncle had really changed and always put the boy first from then on. He gave the boy the best of everything he had, including moccasins with soles. And the boy used his bear skills to find enough pecans, salmon, honey, and fruit to feed himself and his uncle both. In the end, the boy was very happy, and for the rest of his days, he never forgot either one of his families, not the human family that he had been born into, and not the animal family he'd chosen, and who'd chosen him.